the aggravating factors proven beyond the exclusion of a reasonable doubt. The court finds the factors are proven are sufficient to impose a sentence of death. The court finds the defendant is eligible for the death sentence on this count. On count 2 of the indictment regarding the death of Tatyen Baker, the court finds all 4 aggravating factors proven beyond the exclusion of a reasonable doubt. The finding on heinous, atrocious, and cruel by itself is sufficient to find for death. The court finds that in the aggregate, the 4 factors are sufficient to impose a sentence of death, and that the defendant is eligible for a death sentence on this count. The court has independently analyzed each of the mitigating circumstances and found many to be proven. The court has above assigned a weight to each of those circumstances. While they are expressed together, each of the circumstances are proven as to each of the 2 counts as if analyzed independently regarding Robert Baker and Tatyen Baker's murders. There is no evidence suggesting any more or less weight should be applied on any of the circumstances with regard to either of the 2 victims. The court has deliberated carefully on each circumstance proven and given it appropriate weight as stated. Having made all these conclusions, the court is still permitted by the language of the statute to impose a sentence of either life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. The defendant asks this court to disregard the verdict and override it in favor of life. This is not the case for such action. The court finds that the jury's report of its weighing of the aggravating factors and mitigating circumstances substantiated by competent evidence. The court finds insufficient basis to override or disagree with the jury's recommendations, finding that the prerequisites of law have been met and that a jury of its peers has unanimously found death to be the appropriate sentence, and finding independently that such a sentence is warranted. The court hereby orders and adjudges on count 1 of the indictment, the first-degree murder of Robert Baker. The defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff of Putnam County to be held and transmitted to the Department of Corrections, and to be held there in close custody pending imposition of a sentence of death in a manner prescribed by law. On such date as may be set by proper authority, the defendant shall be put to death for this offense. On count 2 of the indictment, the first-degree murder of Tatyen Baker, the defendant is remanded to the custody of the sheriff of Putnam County to be held and transmitted to the Department of Corrections, and to be held there in close custody pending the imposition of a sentence of death in a manner prescribed by law. On such date as may be set by proper authority, the defendant shall be put to death for this offense. Counts 1 and 2 are to run consecutive to the sentence on count 4. On count 4, the court enters a judgment of guilty on the verdict and sentences you to life in prison. All standard court costs and fees are imposed. The discretionary fees, as previously discussed, will be imposed. The clerk will prepare a final judgment and sentence. The defendant is advised he has an automatic right of appeal to the Supreme Court of the state. The defendant is entitled to representation in that appeal. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you at no charge on application to this court. May God have mercy on your soul. We're adjourned. Good PSI.